It's been so wonderful for me to just see family pictures and for the impact that he's had in his children and his grandchildren and all those. But now we're going to be blessed in a little different way as we hear from pastors and churches that Harlan has impacted in the Central Texas area. And I am so honored to just be here today with these pastors and in one case, pastor's wife, which is so wonderful. But first, Bryan Threlkeld is coming, and he is the pastor in Georgetown at Hill Country Bible, Georgetown. And after Bryan comes, Cindy Hawks, which is Tim Hawks' wife. Tim is out of the country, could not be here, but Cindy will come and share something from Tim. And then after that, we have Danny Box coming from Georgetown. And these are three churches that have incredible ministries that are impacting thousands of people. And Harlan had a part in each of these churches. And so I want you to just listen to the testimony of these as they come. So Bryan, you come, please.
You know, when I was asked to be a reference for Harlan's retirement party, I was honored. And the passage that came to my mind is 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 1 to 3. Writing to the Corinthians, the Apostle Paul once said this: "Do we need, like some people, letters of recommendation to you or from you? You yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts, known and read by everybody. You show that you are a letter from Christ, the result of our ministry." Folks, you are looking at a living, breathing reference letter for Harlan Ihnen. In many ways, the result of his ministry. When I found out last week that Harlan's passing was imminent, I sat in my office and I wept. I didn't weep for Harlan. I was thrilled for Harlan. He was going to be out of that body of decay, free from that back pain that he suffered for so many years. He was going to be in the presence of the Lord shortly. And Paul makes it very clear that is better by far. But I wept for Vonda, for the family, for his friends, for myself. I'm going to miss him dearly. Earth has lost a great saint. And this evening I'm talking about Harlan, but whenever I would think of Harlan, it was always Harlan and Vonda. Harlan and Vonda just went together. You see, they say behind every great man, there's a great woman. If you know Vonda, you know that's the case. But you're looking at a person whose life has been impacted big time by Harlan Ihnen. You see, Hill Country Bible Church, Georgetown, was founded from a small group that met in the Ihnen's home. He was the church planter. He was the elder chairman of our church when it was first started. I told our elders last Thursday night, "Gentlemen, we around this table here are standing on the broad shoulders of a man named Harlan Ihnen." In fact, humanly speaking, you would have to ask the question, would Hill Country Bible Church Georgetown even be here if it wasn't for Harlan? Would Hill Country Bible Church Pflugerville be here? Would Hill Country Bible Church Southwest be here? Would we have an association of Hill Country churches of which he was the director? I've known a lot of individuals in my life who've had a heart for lost people, but Harlan's was as big as anyone I've ever met. I still remember vividly interviewing for the position of small groups and assimilation pastor at Hill Country Bible Church, Georgetown, because Harlan was one of the first individuals I talked to. I had an hour interview on the phone with him. And I was warned ahead of time about Harlan's strong, opinionated personality. But then I met Harlan and I found out that he had a strong, opinionated personality. But it was wrapped around a teddy bear heart. Huge heart for the Lord. Huge heart for people. You see, I actually had to fill Harlan's shoes. He was in charge of small groups in assimilation when I arrived. Some big shoes to fill. But I quickly discovered that Harlan was my number one cheerleader. He was my number one encourager, my number one helper. In fact, he began to see things in me that I didn't see in myself. And as I grew as a shepherd and teacher and preacher and equipper of saints, Harlan started to challenge me that perhaps God had a vision that was bigger than I knew. That perhaps one day I would be a senior pastor of a Hill Country Bible Church. I said, no way. It's not my calling. It's not where I'm headed. It's not going to happen. I should have known Harlan was up to something when he invited my wife and I to be a part of the first association church planting training process, and it was about 4 months of training. And after a few weeks, I looked around and realized that I was the only associate pastor there. All the other individuals were senior pastors and their wives. I was very content where I was at. But somehow Harlan saw something. He knew. And I look back at that now and I realize God's messenger to me, God's motivator, God's exhorter to me was Harlan Ihnen. I've been a senior pastor now for 9 years and can't imagine doing anything else. And I look back and I attribute a lot of that to Harlan's encouragement. Harlan wasn't just a great trainer and great motivator. He was also one of the most generous people I've known. Harlan was constantly giving of his time and his treasure and his talent for the Lord's work. He and Vonda opened up their home from the first time I visited the church and was candidating there. Always their home was open and welcome, their lake house for ministry purposes, just the way they were. You know, when I think about Matthew 6, 19 to 21, storing up for yourselves treasures in heaven, because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, I think about Harlan. You know, I think I can share this tonight because he's already passed. He's not in danger of losing any rewards, so I'll brag about Harlan a little bit. I heard that Harlan actually cashed out some of his retirement to plant churches. Didn't surprise me when I heard that. Some people would say, that's crazy. No, that's Harlan. Always selling out for the Lord. Steve, Dave, you're right. If there's one thing I'm confident of, it's that Harlan heard that well done, good and faithful servant. Let me just close by saying this. Harlan left a legacy. A whole genealogical family that are following hard after Jesus Christ, and many churches, spiritual families that are growing and flourishing, and we do remember that we're standing on the shoulders of a founding father known as Harlan Ihnen. I personally can't wait to get to heaven one day and visit Harlan in his palatial mansion there. And just be able to say to him one more time, thanks, brother. Thank you for showing me what it looks like to give 110% for Jesus Christ. And for teaching me that you can never give too much to reach lost people. God, tell Harlan I love him.